Now, no matter what system of proportional representation, if it does go forward and we get a proportional system, there will likely be minority governments. And this will involve some kind of agreement between two or maybe even more political parties coming together. And this could be on an issue-by-issue basis. It could be a confidence in supply agreement like the one between your party and the NDP caucus, or it could be a more formal coalition. Yeah. When you have these kind of agreements and coalitions, how do citizens know who's making the decisions, and how do they know who to hold accountable when it comes to government inaction or action?
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to just start with minority governments and what I see as a huge benefit of minority governments. When we look at some of the policies in Canada that we are most proud of, they came under a minority government. Medicare, Canada Pension Plan, Canada Student Loans, the 40-hour work week, weekends, labor laws, the Equity Marriage Act, the Health Accord. These are just some of the policies that have come in federally under minority governments, because in my view, and you can look at the countries that operate under proportional representation that have a lot of minority governments, is that it focuses on the shared values. It makes the decision making often a much longer horizon that we're looking at, because it's an opportunity for two parties to step out of the election cycle time frame and to look at the longer term, the legacy time frame. What do we want to create together? What will be the legacy of this government? And you know, we see it here in BC. So in the first session in the fall, we banned big money from politics, which was a long overdue piece of policy that needed to happen. We brought in the legislation to enable this referendum, which is you know, such an exciting development. There have been a lot of, there's been, I think the year of politics in BC for me is summarized by, at the beginning, talking to Rob Shaw, and he says, I just don't understand how this can work. How can two parties work together? And I kept saying, well, in every realm, adults work together, right? In every other realm, we expect people to be able to work together, and that's what we're going to do here. He says, no, can't be done. A year later, you know, I hear Rob Shaw on CBC last week saying, well, they seem to work together. I mean, they seem to be doing it, and they don't agree on everything, and it involves push and pull, and nobody's always happy with every decision. But those values, that commitment to serving citizens of BC and future generations, underpins the work that we do together.
You mentioned a little bit about decisions taking a bit longer. There have been examples around the world of kind of long delays when it comes to proportional systems. Yeah. What is your response to people who have that concern?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, the work of government always continues. It's not that government shuts down while parties are deciding how to formulate a coalition or a confidence in supply agreement. And when you look at in many ways, even if there are more governments formed, there are actually often fewer elections in proportional representation systems. So Canada has one of the highest sort of number of elections over time, even though we're in a first-past-the-post system. In a proportional system, you can make an agreement between parties. If that doesn't work out, a new agreement can be reached without going back to an election, so it can actually save money. The other thing it does is because it's more based on consensus building, it means that we don't get what we see in Canada and BC, which are these policy lurches. So you get one party that's in power for a long time, and it moves down an avenue of a certain kind of policy. They get finally, you know, thrown out, as we just saw in Ontario, and you get a party that comes in and says, we're going to undo everything they did, and we're going to do things completely differently. This actually creates economic uncertainty, social uncertainty. It creates worries and concerns for people who are depending on understanding how the system is going to work. Proportionality actually brings less of that lurching from one side to the other, more consistent policies, stronger economic certainty, long-term social certainty. So in essence, by making it so that parties have to work together, we create a more stable landscape.